Hello lovely crafters, it's been a while. So I've had a bit of an eventful 2026 so far. I unfortunately had a fall and broke my leg. So I have had it fixed, I've had it pinned and plates in, and I'm currently undergoing physio. So I was unable to sew for quite a while, and you would think, why is a broken leg not let you sew? I could hand sew, but sitting with my leg down for a long time and my machine wasn't happening. So I'm just getting back into machine quilting and sewing in general in the last month or so. So I thought it might be nice to do a little video and give you a bit of a catch up on what I'm doing. So I've got quite a few projects on at the moment, but the one I want to focus on today is this Wonky star quilt. So I'm making it with Tula Pink's Floral Reef, which was the new range that came out this year. And I am doing a quilt as you go method. So I'm doing these blocks ready quilted, which means that I can echo around the star and in the middle. And then when I put the backing on, I'm just going to do a grid sort of either side of each line going each way. And I've used this absolutely gorgeous Aurifil. It's quite a heavyweight. I think it's 12 weight. I'll check and show you what that is. But first of all, I'll show you the blocks. So some of them are with mixed patterns, and this was because I got a charm pack and some of them didn't have enough of the main fabric, so I paired it with some of the filler fabrics. What I wanted to do with this, they are quite large stars. This is for a baby's quilt, but I made them larger stars because I wanted to show the full prints. They're quite big prints, some of them, and I didn't want to cut into them. So I've used, and a little bit of laziness, the charm packs are obviously 5x5, so the center block was 5x5, so that's what I went with for the surrounding blocks as well. So as you can see, some of them where there were more charms in the pack, I've done the whole star in that particular fabric. Again, that one's all in the same fabrics. So this is for a baby of a couple that I studied with. So we're all marine scientists, so it felt really fitting that the baby's quilt would be on this Kona solid aqua with the lovely marine prints that Tula has done this year. So I had originally, if you've seen any of my previous videos, I may have talked about an upcoming trip that we had, and originally I was going to use these fabrics to make a quilt while we were on a trip of a lifetime for my big birthday. So we should have gone to the Galapagos Islands in May, and instead we had a few nights in Scotland because my broken leg meant that we couldn't travel, and unfortunately, although we'd waited for the trip for a long time, we did have to cancel. But that then felt really right that these fabrics are now being used for this gorgeous little Marini baby who's come along. So they're all really quite different fabrics, aren't they? They're typically Tula Pink, I think, with just absolutely gorgeous colours. And I think on this aqua background, they are just incredible. There's only a couple that are like white background, but I really like those as well. And there are a couple that are, I love this like yellowy green colour with the pinks on it. Yeah, there are a couple that are aqua background. I've managed somehow to stitch a scrap onto the back of this one, and I'm not unpicking it. It's going to stay there. Be an extra little treat in there. Again, just absolutely vibrant pictures of corals. There are little sharks, snakes, all sorts. So yeah, these more aqua background. Can I find a more aqua? So yeah, that's a very aqua background, but then the print on it is so bold that it still stands out. And I quite like that the aqua background blends with the background fabric, so that's quite cute. And then I do like these white background with the seaweeds in as well. So this is quite a simple block to make, so it was a good way to get back into things. And one thing I've learned about myself as a quilter is that I love to make a quilt top. I'm not so good at getting around to actually finishing it and quilting it. So doing a quilt as you go project feels like a good idea for me. I feel like this is something that I can get finished quite well. If you bear with me, I'll get the backing fabric and show you what I plan for the back of this quilt. So this print is called School Crossing, and this is obviously in the pink. It does come in other colours, and I just thought as a child growing up, spotting the different fish in that might be quite interesting, and I like the pink. And then I've got a Kaffe set spot, and it's actually a really subtle spot. It's in like a cream background with almost like a mauvey coloured polka dot on it, and I think that's what I'm going to bind it in, but I'm waiting on that coming. I'm also waiting on a little bit more backing fabric to come. I only have three blocks left to make, and I ran out of backing fabric. So I'm going to show you today with what I've got left how I actually construct this block. I will share links below to other tutorials as well. Jenny from the Missouri Star Company does a great tutorial on it, and she's very instructional, isn't she? So that's a really handy one to follow. One or two tips on what I think I have done wrong that might help you. So initially I started doing these where they came across very strong here, and I'm not a big fan of that point. I'm more of a fan of this sharper point. So maybe don't come across so far. I'll explain a little bit more about that when we're doing it. So see here, I still haven't lost any points or anything, but I've kept the stars more pointy. So I've learned to basically keep them more pointy. And then there's one where I've come very, very close to the edge because the point is very long. And when I find that, I will share that with you. But my thoughts on it were, rather than risking losing that in, it's this one, rather than risking losing this point in a seam, I'm going to put this on an edge and just try and very carefully bind and hopefully not lose the point on the binding. So we will cross that bridge when we come to it. I hope that we can make that work, because I think overall this is my favourite quilts that I've made so far, and I say that about every quilt while I'm making it. I only made one cutting error during the making of this, and it was on this lovely fabric. So I have ordered myself an extra fat quarter. What I did was I didn't put my centre block aside, and I cut through it for the legs. Would you call it legs of a star? For the legs, the sparkles of the star. And yeah, I cut through all of it, so I didn't keep myself a centre block. So that's the only thing I've had to reorder. That, and I love the blues in it, so I definitely wanted it included. I think there's a lot of quite hot wild colours, and this is a nice calm one that I wanted to have included. I have had a embroidered label made. It's Raya's Stars of the Reef quilt, made with love by Annie 2026. So Raya is the little girl that it's for, and I thought Stars of the Reef was quite a good name for this quilt. I'm also going to add my little Zuzu's Petals on there as well. I'll probably just sew it in on top of this label on the corner there. So my machine does have embroidery, but that is something I haven't really got around to learning how to do yet, to make a label like this. So that is something that I'm definitely going to do in the future. Okay, I'm going to get on now and show you how I make this block. So to make this block, you're going to need 8 5x5 squares of your background fabric, which I've already pre-cut. And then from my new fat quarter, I'm going to cut 3 5x5 squares. Okay, so don't make the error I made. Find the center one that you want. So I like this one for the center because it's got a bit of a hammerhead shark shadow there. So I'm going to have that as my centerpiece. What you're going to do is, with 2 of them, you just need to cut them in half, and I cut them on the diagonal. So you've got 4 little half triangles here, so they're going to be some of your fronds. Then on the 3rd piece, I do that in quarter, and it makes me some smaller fronds. Fronds, arms, sparkles, I don't know what we're calling those bits of the star, call them whatever we like. Now I have 4 much smaller triangles. So I need 4 of these background squares, and I'm going to put a small piece and a large piece onto each one of them. And then we will loosely arrange the star arms into random designs. So the whole point of the Wonky star is that it's not uniform, it's going to be random. So for example, I'll have 2 points that look like this, and then on the next one it'll probably look completely different. So as I said, we're going to end up with something that looks like this for our star feet. So all you do is you simply flip it over, sew it on, and then you'll flip this back and you'll do the same thing. Flip this over, sew it on, flip it back, and we'll trim it. So I'm going to do this now with these 4, and I'll show you how I sew them together and how I trim them. Okay, so I'm at my machine now. I'm going to show you how I put these blocks together. So I'm just going to get my 5x5 background fabric, and then what I do like to do is check that it's going to come right to the edge, and then I'm going to flip that, and in any direction really, because you want it to be random. Now I'm ready to sew my 1/4 inch seam. It makes the first bit of your star, and you can take your second piece and do a similar thing. Again, I like to, can you see that? Make sure it's going to cover the edge, and bear in mind you're going to have a 1/4 inch seam. You want it a little bit further down. You can change the direction a little bit if you want to have it more spiky. I think I like that position there. Flip it. There you go, you can see how that will be the legs of one section of the star. Okay, so to trim the blocks, all I do is I turn them over first and then just follow the square. I do use a ruler for this. I do want to make sure I get this accurate, and simply take off the edges. Again, we're going to do that with all 4. Some will have more hangover than others. Just flatten that out a little bit. That's it. And once you've done that, you're going to want to take off the excess, so up to your 1/4 inch seam there. Now this bit might make you all cringe a little bit, but I just unpick just by pulling to there, just where the overlap has crossed over and sewn, and then you might need to just put a couple of stitches back in to see if it's like a little bit loose there. What I'll do is I'll just put a couple of stitches back in along here just to secure that again. One of the most important things for getting your sewing accurate is to starch and iron. It's not a step you should skip. Now, I by nature am not an ironer. I don't iron clothes. I've loathed ironing my whole life, but since I started sewing, which is about 22 months ago, so less than 2 years I've been quilting or sewing at all. Since then, I have ironed more than I've probably ironed in the rest of my entire life. So I'm going to give it a good spray of starch, and then missed that one. Just make sure we get them as flat as possible. So I'm ready to construct the star, but first, the little bits that I had to peel back, I'm just going to go back and put a few little stitches in there. It literally just takes seconds just to secure that down again. I'm going to do that on all 4 just to make sure that it sits nice and flat once it's in the quilt. Okay, now for the best bit of putting it together so you can see your star revealed. So when it comes to nesting seams, we've got this seam going this way, this seam going that way. You sit them together and you can actually feel where the join is. So they sit on opposite sides and you can feel that those seams are together right, and that means that your squares will line up. And then this is the point when you find out how accurately you did manage to match your seams up. And if they're millimetres out, it never really worries me. I don't think it affects the overall look. But yeah, pretty happy with that. It's a little bit out on this side, tiny touch, but that side's pretty nicely joined up. So I'm very happy with that. And there we have our star. So I'm going to do one final press and then I'm going to show you how I quilt as I go on this quilt block. Okay, so I have cut a piece of wadding just slightly larger than the quilt block itself, and I am a glue baster, so I use my trusty 505. You give it a good shake, spray it onto the wadding, and then you just place your block on. Smooth it down. And you are going to use a hot iron again because it is the hot iron that activates the glue and makes it adhere. Then I'm going to swap into the gorgeous Aurifil, which I just think was a beautiful match. Okay, so when I machine quilt, I increase my stitch size from 2.5 to 5. So I simply find the point in my star and I'm just using this edge of my foot, so it's very, very close stitching. It's almost like top stitching in dressmaking. And I just start, oh, I want to be much slower than that. And then when you get down to the corner, I simply lift my foot but leave my needle, I want one more stitch in there. I lift my foot but leave my needle down and then turn, and that gives you a nice clean corner. For the block is just to trim it. There you have a nice crisp block ready to go into the quilt. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, enjoy the making and we'll speak soon.
Under the boughs where the shadows play, the wind hums songs at the break of day, whispering pines, secrets untold, carrying tales only the forest holds. Moonlight spills through the velvet dark, etching patterns, leaving its mark. The roots stretch deep, the earth's gentle sigh Rivers whisper truth as they flow down.